Sorry, guys, this is part three. I know I'm going off on tangents, but I get so excited about this model. We left off on hitting for average, and we left off on what happens when you're pushing your team to make a deliverable or to deliver something because it's the first time you've worked with your client, and you want to make sure that you get the order there early, not on time, right? Totally understand it. You're pushing that urgency. You're getting it out there. You go into a convention or a conference. You're nowhere to be found, and all of a sudden the machine goes down because you couldn't finish the order, and it's done. The order is late now. Your first order is late now. You're losing confidence with your new client, right? So that's how urgency can go bad, and you're pushing too much, and you're not letting um, common sense lead the way, right? Mistakes charisma for clarity, right? Avoids feedback by staying in motion, can burn out teams chasing their own adrenaline. Mistakes charisma for clarity. How many times have we been in a meeting with someone and they refuse to listen to practicality? They refuse to listen to what's happening in the real world, in real time, what's happening in real time on the production floor, what's happening right now, right? They don't want to listen to it. They don't, right? Avoids feedback by staying in motion, right? They just want to hit that hit. They just want to get that hit. They just want to feel like they're the number one person out there, and that's the only thing they want, right? They just want that recognition 24/7. They want that adrenaline. They're in the game. I get that, but sometimes you have to take a step back and take a look at what's actually happening. Is it effective? Is it efficient? Is it productive? Right. Then the next one's fielding. What is fielding? Defense, foresight, system protection. Right. In a baseball lens, the shortstop who saves runs, the catcher who calls the game, the outfielder throws a laser to third. Right. It's about anticipation, reaction time, and preventing damage before it happens. Right. It's having that quality control, having that quality control. It's having that risk, that risk assessment, right? Risk mitigation. It's doing that maintenance that I was talking about earlier. Preventative maintenance. That's what it's about. It's about defense, foresight, and system protection, right? In business, it spots risk before it becomes a crisis. So huge for us to have people like this. Spots risk before it becomes a crisis. Risk mitigation, preventative maintenance, thinks in second and third order consequences. How is this going to be a train reaction? Yes, we're going to land this right now. Yes, we're going to do this right now. But 2 months from now, it's really going to hit us because we're moving our facility. And we didn't tell them because we wanted to land this deal, and we didn't tell them we were going to move our facility. We just landed a brand new contract and we're validating it. And we know that in a validation for a medical device, we have to make sure that the facilities that the production is being produced at is in that validation, is in that contract, in that sales agreement, right? And we don't tell them. We have to be preventive. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things, I've challenged this model quite a bit. But what really matters in this model is that I've challenged it in the field with clients. I've challenged it in the field, and I've also challenged it with the theories that I've seen and the frameworks that I've seen. And this is why it's so good, because it's challenging and it's different industries and different positions and different professions, right? Protects them from legal, operational, reputational hits, a lawyer, a legal team, a regulatory person, a regulatory expert if you're in pharmaceuticals or whatever the case, somebody that's there to back you up, that's able to save millions where it shows up. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Protects from the legal, operational, reputational hits, brings calm to chaos without freezing the game. Love this book by Peter Senge called The Fifth Discipline. This is huge right here. Um, I'm going to go off on a tangent right now. I have been. This is part three. I thought it was going to be one part in 15 minutes and it's taking off. But I read this book at Pepperdine. I don't remember if it was Dr. Miriam Lacey or Dr. Kurt Motamedi who introduced this book to us, but it was called The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. And in that book, there's an excerpt from Bill Russell. And Bill Russell in this book talks about, so incredible. He talks about the game freezing or the game slowing down. And I'll have a little lesson on it, but when I'm talking about invisible leadership, but this is so important, right? There's one thing to I work best under pressure. I hate when people say that. Oh, I work best under pressure. I come in the clutch. No, you're not. You're waiting and you're procrastinating till the end. And then you deliver it. And just so you say, hey, I delivered it on time, But what if there's adjustments that need to be made or corrections that need to be made? That's the part that annoys me when people say I work best under pressure. You don't work best under pressure. You're getting it done because you know it needs to get done, but it's probably full of errors. And you're probably going to have to do a lot of adjustments to that document or to that framework or to that spreadsheet, whatever it is. But that's what I'm talking about. There's a difference between that and actually being calm in chaos, right? So there's an expert in that book from Bill Russell, and I hate the Celtics with a passion. I don't care if I lose clients because I hate the Celtics so much. I don't care. I hate the Celtics, but I hope you need my services. But yeah, when it comes to that, and yes, I would go to the Boston Garden. I would go there to consult or whatever, no matter how much I hate the Celtics. But I would. But Bill Russell, man, rest in peace. Great, great saying in that book. He talks about him and his teammates being from different places in the world, and then he goes into the last few seconds or a few minutes of a game feels like eternity because everything's running in slow motion. Everything is running in slow motion. So as it's running in slow motion, you're seeing every fake, every cut, everything that's happening. You're seeing it happen in real time, but it's in slow motion. And have you ever wondered when you watch championship games or very, very important games, the last 2, 3 minutes sometimes could last an hour? It's because everyone is clicking on all cylinders. That's what's happening. So these people, these fielding people, because they know they dotted their I's and crossed their T's, they worked on the validation, they worked on the memorandum of understanding, the sales agreement, they worked on the technical assessment, they worked on the certification or the validation, they read everything, they know exactly what's happening. They bring that calm to the chaos because in a difficult situation, they're gonna know what we can do or what we can't do. They're gonna know. They're going to know if you should be measuring a part within 15 inches. They should know if you should be measuring a part in arm's length. And then when that happens in arm's length, there's tall people, there's short people, there's people with long arms, people with small arms. What is it? Well, it's 15 inches. 15 inches is the average arm. Great. That's how you need to measure the part, or that's how you need to see the glass, or that's how you need to see anything. 15 inches, that's what it is, right? They know that. They read those documents and they go through. We need people like that because a lot of people, especially people like me, even though I read those documents, I don't read those documents 5, 10 times. I read it one time and I start paying attention to the critical aspects, and I know the critical aspects left and right. But the important thing about me reading that document is that I'm going to know if somebody else read it. That's why I read it that one time. So I might not know the details, but I will know the scope. And if I know the scope and I'm talking to a person who this should not be their scope, they should know everything in there. I'll know that if I know the scope and I'm speaking to an employee who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that employee or that leader or that executive, I asked them about something within that scope and they don't know how to answer it. That means they not only did not know the details, they also did not read that scope, right? So that's the defense part of it. That's the fielding part of it. Where it shows up, legal catching a contract clause that saves millions. I said that earlier. QA flagging a bug before it hits production. Operations building a system that scales without breaking. Compliance, audits, certifications, and technical agreements that prevent exposure. Behind the curtain, get stuck in what if paralysis. Analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis, whatever the saying is, you're in a loop. They're in a constant loop sometimes where they will not make a decision because there's so much in that engineer drawing, in that part drawing, in that agreement. There's so many things in there, and there's a lot of these agreements that don't have all the answers in there. That you have to go to an industry spec, or you have to go to a different document, and sometimes it's not in there. So they don't answer the questions. They know the scope, they know the framework, they know the whole document, they know the agreement, but they will not make a decision. Becomes rigid or territorial. This is my territory. This is my box, and you can't play in it. Becomes defaults to binary thinking under pressure. Can stall innovation in the name of safety. I've dealt with a lot of these people, and I've seen a lot of these people. A lot of my clients have dealt with these people. Sometimes people, they want to do everything right. They want to do everything right. We have to follow this and follow this, and nothing gets done. And sometimes because they have so many documents and so many things, when you ask them a simple question, hey, we're off by a couple decimal points on that part, or hey, we didn't do this right, or hey, we didn't get the right drawing for this, or we didn't talk to the right building inspector. They start looking they start just freezing, right? They don't know what to do, and they can stall that innovation, right? Because they just want to be safe, they just want to do it the right way. But if something didn't happen the right way amongst those lines, they start freaking out. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't get it, right? Because they're so stuck on doing it the right way that when something of chaotic nature comes in, they don't know what to do. So up here it could be good. We talked about chaos earlier. Brings calm to chaos, right? If they know what they're talking about. But when they don't know what they're talking about, right, they're going to keep the company from moving forward because they don't know about that. And they rather be safe. For example, if you're trying to get into a new product line, if you're trying to get a new machinery, if you're trying to get to a new industry, because they don't know it, they're not going to be able to talk to you about that. They're not going to give you their 2 cents. They're not. They're not gonna talk about something they don't know about. And that happens a lot with engineers that I've worked with, engineers that I've seen, studies that I've seen, quality as well. Because sometimes when you deal with these things, and you need someone to think outside the box, they're not the person to talk to about thinking outside the box. They're going to go with what's safe. Speed. This one's huge. Speed. Well, they're all huge, but what it is: mental tempo, adaptability, and real time decision making. Shohei Ohtani from the Dodgers. I don't want to keep going into baseball and scare you off again, but he stole over 50 bases last year, and he wasn't really known as a base stealer, as one of the best base stealers. He wasn't. But what he started saying was because he wasn't able to pitch and because he wasn't able to field, he was a hitter, a DH, a designated hitter, because of his injuries. He learned how to read the pitchers to know what their mannerisms are, so that way he can steal the bases effectively and efficiently. It's so crazy how he jumped up to being such an efficient base stealer. And it was because he saw something and he adapted right away. He saw something and he just acted right away. His decision making, his real time decision making. So, what is speed? In the form of this context of this framework, it's mental tempo, adaptability, and real time decision making. Baseball lens, base running IQ, not just sprint speed. It's knowing when to steal, when to hold, when to stretch a single into a double. It's reading the field in motion and adjusting on the fly. There's some bad things with speed, but there's some incredible things as well. In business, reads the room and shifts gears without ego. Reads the room and shifts without ego. Doesn't cut people off, doesn't talk over people, reads the room. A lot of good salespeople are good at this. A lot of bad salespeople do this as well. But the good salespeople, right? The good executives, this is something to really think about when it comes to hiring an executive or promoting someone into an executive role or promoting someone into a management role. Can they read that room? Can they shift, right? If a difficult conversation needs to happen, are they willing to have that difficult conversation? And how do they ease their way in there? Do they just say, well, let's talk about the 50,000 parts that you rejected, or let's talk about the bad transition that we made, or the bad transaction that we made? How do they handle it? Right? Do they say, like, for example, if I was in a situation and we had a bad transaction, I would tell them, hey, you know what? I'd like to take you out to lunch and I'd like to talk to you about that transaction that we had issues over. Let them know before you get there, right? Let's say you do meet for lunch and you're at lunch and you start talking to them, and you ease your way into it, right? You're shifting the gears, but you're not beating them up saying, hey, you screwed me over in that deal. No, you ease into it. You talk to them about, say, hey, I want a strong relationship with you. I want to keep going. How do we keep going? And how do we make sure that we both, myself included, that we don't make mistakes on a transaction again? What did my team need to do better? What could I have done better? But don't just shy away too. Find the window to jump in and say, hey, we did do what you asked and you didn't follow through. Obviously, say it in a nicer context, more friendly context. But sometimes you have to also say where the client was wrong, right? Uses silence, questions, and pacing as tools. Silence, questions, and pacing as tools. Integrates feedback in real time without spiraling. It's huge. Integrates feedback in real time without spiraling. Knows when to pause, not just when to pounce. So huge. Knowing when to pause. We all, especially the older generations, really think a salesperson or an executive is the person that knows the answer right away. I've been in these situations. I was at a trade show one time and someone came up to me and they said, hey, can you do this? And I said, well, it depends. Well, we've done some of that, but we're not specialized. We're not specialists in that. Someone else just completely cut me off, an executive, and say, oh, yeah, we could do that. And I remember I just looked like, "We can't do that. We've tried before," and then that person, the customer, the potential customer, called me out and said, "See, that's a true sales guy right there. They can do it." And that was the old school mentality. Some people do it today, but it is more old school, especially based on some of the sales trainings that I've seen, management trainings that I've seen. But right now, it's okay to pause. It's okay to pause. It's okay to say, you know what, let me get back.